The relationship story that shook me to the core happened about 3 months ago, but I still can't get it out of my head. My girlfriend, 20, and I are in our early 20s. We've been together for over a year, and up until that point, everything was just perfect. Our relationship could be called a role model. We rarely argued, and when we did, it ended with ordinary household trifles that we quickly overcame. It seemed that every argument only made us stronger, and I was sure that our union was stronger than stone. However, one situation turned everything upside down, and even now, I still can't shake the unpleasant feelings it caused. As I already mentioned, everything was just fine until one evening. My girlfriend studies at a university that is 2 hours away from my city, and I can't be there for her when she wants to go out with friends or participate in some student events. We both understood that this was normal. She has her own life, I have mine, and we trusted each other. Sometimes she would tell me about her evenings with her friends, how they went to bars or parties, and I never worried. We had established honesty in our relationship from the very beginning, and I felt like I could trust her with everything. She was always open with me the day after her parties, telling me if anything out of the ordinary happened. But one day, the situation was a little different. That night seemed ordinary. She went to another frat party with her friends. The next day, she called and, as always, told me what had happened. Basically, nothing out of the ordinary, except that some guy bought her a drink. She immediately assured me that she hadn't talked to him since. I tried not to dwell on it, but my gut instinct started to ring. Who in their right mind buys a girl a drink and then leaves? It seemed strange to me, but I decided to trust her. We had a strong relationship, and I didn't see the point in suspecting her of anything. The next day was not easy. I began to notice changes in her mood, which was very different from what I was used to seeing. In relationships, I always prided myself on being able to quickly understand when something was wrong with my girlfriend. I could tell when she was tired, when something was bothering her, or when she just wanted to be alone. This time was special. Her mood was strange. She was withdrawn and reluctant to talk to me. This behavior alerted me because usually we could easily communicate about everything. When I asked what was wrong, she assured me that she was just tired because of her studies. This sounded plausible because exams were approaching and university matters could really be stressful for her. I decided to believe her and not press her. However, the situation did not change. Her behavior remained as cold as before, and with each passing hour, this raised more and more questions in my mind. I asked her again what was going on, but the answer was still the same. She was just worried about her studies. I knew that this was probably true, but I couldn't ignore the intuition that told me that there was more to it. However, I left the matter alone so as not to escalate the situation. The next day, I decided to visit her. We had agreed to celebrate the end of the school year, and this was a great opportunity to spend time together and support her during this difficult time. I hoped that my visit would help her relax and forget about the stress. As soon as I arrived, I immediately noticed that her mood had not changed. She was still withdrawn and avoided my gaze. Moreover, I noticed that she was texting some guy, her friend whom I, to put it mildly, could not stand. This was strange in itself because she knew that I did not like this guy. He did not like me either, and their friendship always seemed strained to me. But this time was special. I saw part of his message and it struck me. It said, "Play League of Legends with me or I'll send my name a video." That cut me to the core. What video was he talking about? I immediately asked her what he meant. She clearly wasn't expecting the question and tried to avoid answering. However, after a few more persistent questions from me, she finally explained. It turns out that there was a rumor that there was a video of her holding hands with some guy that night when she was at a bar with friends. She immediately added that she didn't remember anything and that if that had happened, it was probably a misunderstanding. She assured me that her friend was probably just bluffing and the video didn't exist. However, I suggested that she message him and find out the truth. She agreed, and he sent her the video. When I saw the video, I was shocked. There really was my girlfriend holding hands with a guy she didn't know, and they were walking through the bar together. I was beside myself with anger. I felt hurt and offended that she could allow this to happen. I started yelling for an explanation, but she just asked me to calm down and not make any noise so her roommate wouldn't hear. For the record, I had a great relationship with her roommate, and I knew she would support me. I was in such a state that I didn't care who heard what. I suggested going to her roommates and showing her the video to hear her opinion. When we went to the roommates and showed her the video, she refused to give any comments so as not to interfere with our relationship. I understood her position, but it didn't help cope with the anger and disappointment. My girlfriend denied doing anything wrong the whole time. She tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding and she didn't remember how it all happened. And then she suddenly announced that she now remembered something. She said that she got lost with her friends at a bar, and this guy offered to help her find them. That's why she was holding his hand. He allegedly led her to her friends. This explanation did not convince me. Why did she suddenly remember this only now? Had she been hiding it all along? I was furious, but I tried to pull myself together. I needed time to process what was happening. I told her that I needed to cool off and be alone. I went upstairs and sat on the couch, trying to collect my thoughts. My heart was breaking in two. On the one hand, I could not believe that she could cheat on me. On the other hand, her explanation seemed too convenient and unconvincing. I went over everything that had happened in the past few days in my head and tried to figure out what to do next. At that moment, her roommate came up to me. She quietly whispered in my ear, "By the way, I am completely on your side." This was a surprise for me. The roommate was very close to my girlfriend, and I expected her to support her. But her words became a kind of support for me at this difficult moment. I started to wonder, if even her close friend doesn't defend her, maybe I'm right in my suspicions. When I got back to my girlfriend, I was ready to just go home and not talk to her for a while. I told her that she might not hear from me anytime soon, because I needed to sort out how I felt. And that's when she started apologizing, and finally admitted that there was something else she hadn't told me. It turns out that that night wasn't as innocent as she described. After the guy bought her a drink, she and her friend spent about 15 minutes chatting. Then he asked her to add him on Snapchat. Instead of telling him she had a boyfriend, she gave him her Snapchat. I was amazed. Why didn't she turn him down in the first place? Why did she accept his offer? She said she added him, but deleted him a little while later. However, this was not true. When she fell asleep, I checked her phone and saw that she had added it late at night and only deleted it the next morning. Story 2. Asterisk asterisk. Caught between love and lust. My friends with benefits dilemma asterisk asterisk. So, as you probably guessed from the title, I've fallen hard for my FWB, friends with benefits. Yep, the so-called love bug has latched onto me and I can't shake it off, or at least that's what I thought. Let me give you the backstory. It all started with my sister's fiancé. He had this work friend, let's call him P, who I'd been hearing about for quite some time. From the very beginning, I made it known to my sister and her fiancé that I was attracted to P. Every time we'd run into each other in social settings, there was this undeniable chemistry. It was one of those, did that just happen? Moments every time we exchanged a glance or had a flirty conversation. Fast forward to July 2023, my sister's baby shower. That was the day the spark finally ignited into a full-on fire. We were practically glued to each other, talking, laughing, and exchanging those silent looks that only happen when two people are just as intrigued by each other as they are attracted. It wasn't just about physical attraction either. There was something deeper, something magnetic. From that day on, things escalated quickly. We started texting, snapping, and WhatsApping almost daily, sharing memes, catching up on our lives, and before long, we made it a point to see each other at least once a week. By the third time we hung out, the inevitable happened. We gave in to the tension, and just like that, we were sleeping together. The chemistry was undeniable, but our communication soon became complicated. As the months passed, the spark we once had in conversations fizzled. By January, we were just going through the motions, leaving so much unsaid. Conversations turned awkward, with both of us avoiding the elephant in the room. Despite this, we kept meeting up, mostly because, even with the awkwardness, we still enjoyed each other's company. But deep down, I was craving more than what we had. I had started developing feelings, and not just the kind you can brush off, romantic feelings. Fast forward to March, when things came to a head. We all went out for a fun night of golf. Me, P, my sister, her fiancé, and a bunch of their work friends. On the surface, everything seemed fine, but beneath that, I was a mess. I was already battling insecurity and confusion about my feelings for P. To make matters worse, my sister's fiancé had shared some personal info about P that he hadn't told me himself, which left me feeling distant and mistrustful. That night, my emotions got the better of me. The drinks flowed and so did the words. I ended up blowing up at P, right there at the golf place. By the time we got back to his house, we were full-on arguing. I couldn't stop ranting about all the things we had been avoiding, and P, for the first time, raised his voice and snapped at me. I broke down. The floodgates opened, and I ended the night in tears, overwhelmed by how everything had spiraled out of control. After that, we went radio silent for a week. When we finally did meet up, he was ready to talk. He told me, though in a rather poorly worded way, that he wasn't ready for a relationship. He said he still had things in his life he wanted to figure out, and that he was still healing from toxic relationships in his past. I couldn't argue with that. I was in the same boat, dealing with my own insecurities and emotional baggage, but hearing him say it left me feeling used, like I had been pouring my emotions into something that wasn't reciprocated. Despite everything, I pushed my feelings aside and told P that nothing had to change. Yes, I know, I practically threw my own self-worth out the window, so we continued our weekly meetups, still sleeping together while our texting slowly fizzled out. Over the next few months, I ghosted him, more than once. The most recent time was for 2 months, from July to September. Part of me was hoping that my absence would make him miss me, make him realize that he cared more than he was letting on. But I know now that this was just me trying to manipulate the situation. The real reason I ghosted him was because I was terrified of facing my own feelings. I didn't want to confront the fact that I had deeper emotions for him, and I definitely didn't want to talk about it. 2 weeks ago, we reconnected after my long ghosting hiatus. Things slipped back into the old routine. Minimal texting, weekly meetups, and of course, sex. But this time, something changed. After one of our usual nights together, condom scare and all, we finally had an honest conversation. We talked openly about what we were. I explained what I needed from this relationship, or whatever it was. P was surprisingly receptive. He admitted that he still liked me, that we had a great vibe, and that even when we weren't at our best, being around each other was easy and comfortable. We even joked about how we could probably stay lifelong friends, regardless of where things ended up. But then came the moment of truth. Somewhere in the conversation, I blurted out, "I guess I want a relationship, but not with my delusions." And just like that, we both knew it. P said it himself. The FWB arrangement was only going to benefit one of us unless something changed. Now here I am, feeling more clear-headed than I have in months. I've been back on medication, reestablishing a routine, and even picking up new hobbies. P is no longer my top priority. I'm focusing on me. But even with this new clarity, I'm left with one lingering question. What kind of relationship am I actually looking for? I've realized that I'm not ready for a committed relationship, at least not yet. But I still crave a connection, and I don't want to lose P's friendship. When I think about what I want, it doesn't feel like a traditional relationship. Yet when I try to explain it, it somehow ends up sounding that way. Now that I've had time to reflect, I think I was confusing lust and the safety of our friendship for romantic love. What I really want is to maintain a close connection with P, just without the pressure of a defined relationship. So here I am with a list of what I need from this FWB situation. Frequent reciprocal texting. Open, honest conversations. We started this again yesterday. More cuddles, because somehow his cuddles help me sleep better. Weird, right? Occasional outings like twice a year. More physical touch at home. PDA isn't my thing. Genuine interest in me. Asking questions instead of assuming. Spice up the sex life. Let's get creative with role play, fantasies, and different positions. Asterisk, asterisk, TLDR. Asterisk, asterisk. What's the difference between a friends with benefits relationship, a dating relationship, and a committed romantic relationship? And how do I figure out where I stand with P? Story 3. Asterisk, asterisk, my boyfriend broke up with me, but still texts me constantly. What does this mean? I'm really struggling with the situation I'm in right now, and I need some guidance on what to do. My ultimate goal is to salvage the relationship because I love my boyfriend deeply, and I truly believe he's the one for me. But I'm so confused by his actions, and I just don't know what to think. My boyfriend, 25M, and I, 26F, have been together for about 2 years. The first year was perfect, almost like a fairy tale. But this past year, it's been rough. We've had a lot of problems, and most of them, I have to admit, were because of me, my actions, my reactions when I was stressed or annoyed. I could be pretty difficult to deal with, and for the longest time, I didn't even realize how much of a burden I was putting on him. I had no idea how much my behavior was affecting him until everything exploded about 3 months ago. We had a huge fight, one of those turning point arguments. That's when he told me that dealing with my unpredictable, explosive temper was too much for him. He said he wanted to break up. Hearing those words hit me like a freight train. It was then that I truly realized just how awful I had been to him. I felt sick to my stomach knowing I'd made him feel like he was walking on eggshells around me, always unsure of how I'd react, always scared to bring things up because he didn't know how I'd handle it. I was devastated. I took some time to reflect and really think about how my actions had hurt him. I sat with the guilt and regret, and I vowed to change. I didn't want to lose him, and I knew I had to prove that I could be better. So we talked. I apologized, truly, from the bottom of my heart, and begged him for another chance. I promised him that I would never treat him that way again. After some consideration, he agreed to give me that second chance. And from that point on, I genuinely worked on changing. I never wanted him to feel unloved, unappreciated, or afraid of my reactions ever again. Things seemed better for a while. But then about a month later, we had a small disagreement. Nothing major, just one of those minor things couples bicker about from time to time. I stayed calm and polite, handling it in a way that I thought was healthy and mature. But for him, it stirred up all the old memories of our past arguments. Even though I wasn't acting like I had before, the scars from those old fights were still there for him, and they were too deep to ignore. After that minor disagreement, he stopped talking to me for a week. I knew he needed space, so I didn't push him. I gave him the time he needed. After that week, we started texting again, little by little. I thought we were okay. Then he got sick, and we couldn't see each other for another week. During that time, I asked him if everything was fine between us, if we were going to be okay. He reassured me and said yes. A week later, we finally saw each other in person. That's when he broke up with me again. We went for a walk, talked, and even laughed a little. It wasn't all doom and gloom, but he said that as much as he loved me, and he emphasized how much he loved me, he just couldn't go through the roller coaster of our relationship anymore. He was exhausted from it all. But after talking for a while and really enjoying each other's company, he changed his mind. He said he'd think about it again, leaving me with a glimmer of hope. Over the next 2 weeks, we continued texting and talking like nothing had happened. He'd send me good morning and good night texts, and we'd joke around like always. It was as if we had never broken up. Then 3 days ago, he sent me a text saying it was really over this time. He said that as much as he loved me, and he repeated this, he said he loved me so, of asterisk, asterisk, asterisk in much, he just couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't put himself through the pain of our past again. I tried to convince him to give me another chance, to let me prove that I had changed, that things would be different this time. But he wasn't having it. He was firm in his decision. And yet, the very next day, he was back to texting me like nothing had happened. He started snapping me like usual, sending me TikToks and Reels just like always. We talked about multiple things at once, joked around, and it felt like our old selves again. He still sends me good morning and good night texts, and we continue to have the same playful banter we always had. Now, here's what's really confusing me. When we first started dating, he told me that if we ever broke up, he wouldn't be the type to stay friends or keep in touch. He was adamant about that. So why is he still talking to me every day like nothing's changed? What does this mean? Does he still want to be with me? Or is he just holding on out of habit? And on top of all this, we still haven't exchanged any of our belongings. He has a bunch of my stuff and I have his, but he hasn't mentioned anything about getting it back or returning mine. What's going on? I really want to get him back. I love him so much, and I know that I've changed for the better. I want to show him that the past is in the past, and all I want now is to love him in the way he deserves to be loved. I'm even willing to take things as slow as he needs, to give him control over the pace of things so that we can rebuild trust and grow together. Asterisk, asterisk. So what do his actions mean? Is there hope for us? How do I show him that I've changed and that we can make this work? I'm lost, and I really could use some advice, especially from a guy's perspective. I just want him to feel loved and to trust me again. TLDR. My boyfriend broke up with me, but he's still texting me like nothing's changed, and I'm confused about what it means. I want to get him back and show him I've changed.